What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today is Saturday, the 16th of August, which means it's a live day. That's right, every Saturday and Sunday we do live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the channel. And every Saturday is educational with some business touch on the author career. And then, of course, every Sunday is Right with me. Now, today we are going over something very specific. Something we talk about often on this, which is boom, motivations and positions. So we talk about ultimately what is a position, what is motivation, right? And then, but more importantly, what does it look like on the page? Like, how do you dictate position and how do you dictate motivation? So we're going to do some real-time examples, and we're going to try to basically play out what it looks like instead of, because there are so many different ways you can make a character's position known or their motivation known, and sometimes you could just exposition dump it, let's be honest. But if you're trying to be a little bit more, subtle or subtextual, that's what we're going to explore today. So let's get into it. By the way, there is a poll happening right now. What usually drives your main protagonist? Feel free to vote in that poll, and we'll talk about it at the end of the hour. Let's get into it. All right. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So today we are going over what? Let me just write down motivations and positions. I guess real quick, for anyone who doesn't know, a position is a belief. So if I like the Jets, how much I like or don't like the Jets would be a position, and then that would affect my behavior. So if I'm a huge Jets fan, which I am not because I have class and taste, I don't know what that means. Let's say I am a huge Jets fan and somebody says the Jets suck. It's probably going to create a behavioral response of defending the Jets for some unknown reason, but, you know, it's sports. Hey, what's up, bro? Hey, flowers, as if there's any other response. Accurate. My characters made me do it. All right, so again, position is I am a huge Jets fan, and somebody says the Jets suck, and then my behavior is influenced by my position, my belief. And that could go the opposite way, too. I can kind of like the Jets because my brother likes the Jets, and someone's like, the Jets suck, and I'd be like, I don't, what do I care? You know, so it's their position and how much they believe or don't believe in that position that will influence the behavior. Now, motivations are basically the why they do something. Okay, they have the motivation to get the sword of bloop bloop. They have the motivation to keep my family alive, right? So one's an external, one's an external is get the sword of bloop bloop. The internal is I want to keep my family alive, right? Who are these Jets people you speak of? They're called Jerseyites, people from Jersey. What's this? Stirring the pot of football fans against every day. Go Miami Dolphins. I prefer the Sharks. Who doesn't prefer the Sharks? You know what I'm saying? Game over, man. Every time I see the game over, all I think is Aliens, where what's his face is like, it's game over, man. Game over. They are a rival gang. The Sharks. We're the Sharks. All right. Let's keep it going. You booted yourself on my TV. Come back. I apologize for that. I don't know why. It just makes it happen. I guess we got some ads going on. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some general, basic ways to show motivations and positions, and then we'll just gradually make it more and more, a little bit more complex. All right. We'll see how that goes today. So the first thing that you could do, by the way, again, we're going to start very simple, and then we're going to get more and more complex. Simple, complex, simple, complex. So you could do this with either a motivation or a position. It doesn't matter. So the examples, you can utilize it for either way. Woo! I wouldn't leave you forever, flowers. All right. So again, you can literally have a character go, I need to get the sword. Sorry, it's a capital letter. Sword of bloop bloop to save my to keep my family safe. I don't want them to die. I love them more than anything. More than anything. All right. I'm not saying this is good or bad. What I'm saying is you can do this. There is nothing wrong with just having the characters announce their true motivations and positions, okay? There's nothing wrong with that at all. All right? Now, you could get a little bit more, you could add a little bit more finesse to the presentation. You could be like, for example, if we were looking at this as a plot, actually, let me take that. If we're looking at it as a plot or outline, right? The way you can look at it is, oh, this is dialogue, by the way, for anyone. You guys know that's dialogue. All right. So, for example, we could be like, all right, Davy. Why don't we do Davy, right? Davy's family is in danger, and he must get the sword of Bloop Bloop, right? So that might be the plot. So you might say to yourself, how do I beat that out? So if you're just writing quick plot points and not necessarily prose yet, you might say, a group of bear men attack the village. Okay. And kill a few people, taking a few people, and destroying some buildings. Okay. All right. Okay. So maybe the next beat is before leaving, one of the bear men tell the village they'll be back. Okay. Bear men, like, they are half bear, half men. Half bear, half man. I'm just writing simple examples just to make it as easy as possible. However, they could also be bear. They could be bear men. You know, a group of bear men. Attack. Okay. All right, and they use their diphthongs as weapons. All right. So these two parts narratively would play out where the bear men would just attack the village. So you would show that, and you would show, and in this you would show Davy running around or you would show Davy hiding his family first before doing anything. So right there, that behavior in the narrative, whether it's pretty prose or not, would already start exploring this motivation to keep my family safe because I love them more than anything, right? So keep my family safe. I don't want them to die. I love them more than anything. We don't have to have him say that. Just to be clear, though, like if you're writing like YA or middle grade or something that's not really epic fantasy adult or sci-fi adult, you do have to sort of, have people say certain things at certain times to be like, oh, I love my family more than anything. I don't want them to die. But the more you move away from young adult or middle grade, the more you can be a little bit nuanced. The more you could add subtext. The more you could allow things to infer. So a lot of times when you're reading epic fantasy, you'll notice that like they don't explain things right away. They'll be like, even in Game of Thrones when we did the first chapter, they mention the Night's Watch, but they don't really go into what that is and the history of it. But by chapter 4, we already know Jon Snow wants to go do that, and we understand it. We understand the Starks by the end of the book, you understand that the Starks family have been connected to the Night's Watch forever, but that slowly comes out. But the thing is, sometimes you can infer stuff. So, bear men, yeah, I'll read that. Who wouldn't? All But my point is, when you're, even if you're outlining or you're looking at scenes or chapters, if you did write this in dialogue and you're like, it's just too on the nose, how do I clean it up? You just look at it and you say to yourself, what do I need to establish this? And behavior will always outweigh everything. So this one act of behavior is going to dictate more about their motivations than not. Okay, which is also a position, by the way. The position is that they love their family. The motivation is they don't want to see them die, right? And they love their family a lot. Okay, then you could create other positions, right? The wife tells him to stay with them in the hall, and he's going to try and stop the bearmen from hurting others. So a couple things happen here. We've created another position. We created ultimately where their stance is on, helping others, that they're not afraid to fight or stand up or to go out of their way to protect their village. But their motivations might just be that they want to help their village because their position is they respect their village and they have this belief that if I'm capable, let me go at it. But we're also creating the wife's position. Forget about everyone else. Stay here with me and the kids. And they're like, no, I have responsibility. All right. For the record, I brushed my teeth like 3 hours ago, knowing that I had to drink something, and I didn't want to have another last week event where I drank that. I was like, okay. So this is how we kind of understand where the physicality of it's going to go, okay? Now let's get a little bit more interesting with this. I need to get the sort of bloop bloop, okay? So the way you could do that is, let's say you have a scene, and if we're going to just map it out, so a group, we've talked about this kind of sort of in the past, but a group gathers at the local tavern, complaining about the bearmen attacking the village. The village. What can I spell? Jesus. All right. Okay. Davy wants to go do something about it. Okay. Let's say there's a warrior princess there. Melissa doesn't want to go in alone, but agrees with Davy. Jacob thinks they should just leave the village and let the bearmen have at it. We're more than the things we own. People's lives are more important than stuff. Okay? And then maybe someone says, Elvon Berenstein says that people shouldn't have to run or leave behind the life they have. Okay? All right. So, now, for the record, this might be how I approach a scene if I'm having trouble understanding what's happening. I'll just say to myself, what are their positions in the argument or the discussion? Okay? And we're going to go down. And that means while I'm working on the scene, I then can kind of play out these beats. And it drives how characters are behaving. It drives what they're saying. And they might not say these things outright. But when you're outlining or working on a scene, it's okay to be as straightforward and blunt as long as it's broad and general. You know, you always want to be broad and general because specifics get you tied down and like, well, I wrote this thing, so I can't change it. But you can add specific information. But what I'm saying is, like, it's okay to sort of be broad and general in outlines because then you could use the story to kind of play it out and see where it goes. But now we know that it's going to take place in a tavern. We know that they're complaining after the bear attack. And we know that there's 4 characters at this table, and they all have different positions. Okay, so let's get into it. So if we were going to write a scene out, all right, the door's shut. With a somber press, or somber click, close. Where's the click? Click. Jacob. I don't know. Whatever. Jacob reached the table in the center of the tavern. He sat down, placing his legs up on, placing his legs up. All right. So again, I'm just writing ideas. All right. Now Jacob thinks they should just leave. All right. So I'm gonna change that. We're gonna say Elva. Okay. Reads the table. All right. So is this information you'd throw in your outline to assist you, or just in some separate place or reference? It could be both. Like in the outline, this might be a general statement of they're going to discuss the group. They're going to discuss the battle and what has happened and what they should do to kind of fix it. Now, when I'm working on the chapters outline or the 0 draft, I would probably write this, because I'm not going to work out the prose or the full scene. I just want to know what's going on. So this might be what I write in the 0 draft of the chapter, but not necessarily the outline itself. Though, I'm not saying don't, though. Like if you're working on your extended draft and it helps you to know what their positions are, that's fine too. But this information would never be in the prose. Like I would never write this stuff out in the prose. I just wouldn't. I would do what I'm doing now, which is I'd write a general scene. I'd have stage direction. Like, for example, I would write this in a first draft. Walked across the tavern, sitting to a table in the center of it. All right. Now, the reason I would do that is because when you're writing a first draft, it's not about pretty prose. It's not about immersion. I just want to sort of see the scene play out, and I just sort of want to get a general idea. This exercise isn't necessarily how to create fancy prose or even write out a chapter. This exercise is more about representing the motivations and positions of characters. But it is a good way to sort of just get out the ideas. Yeah, it does look like 0 draft. Yeah, it's 0 draft details. It is what it is. All right, so he sat down, placing the legs up as he grabbed a beer. Beer. All right. Let's see. We should be packing, not talking. Jacob said, pacing close, near the bar. All right. And Abby stood cross-armed and watching. Okay. So what am I establishing now with behavior? Hey, Hannah Hart, how's it going? I'm outlining my Sleeping Beauty retelling. Called Unspoken. Did you change it again? Did you change the title again? That's awesome. Keep it up, Hannah. Keep it up. All right, so what I'm trying to establish is Davey wants to do something about that, but I'm creating a position for his behavior in the sense that he's not going to just talk. He's going to take in the information. He is going to try to figure out what's going on, and then he's going to have a thought or process to it. Very good. You got to do what you got to do, There's no judgment here. No judgment here. All right. So, Davey, we're going to set him up as the, we could even do this, Davey turn. Actually, crossed his arms. All right, and then we don't have to do this part. We can actually, because now we know this opening is gonna be in Davy's POV. Okay, and then maybe Davy rubbed his beard. His beard. Glancing over to, let's see, Melissa. Their glances. And again, this is like what a first draft would look like. It doesn't have immersion. It's not pretty prose. I'm just sort of, the way I do it is I want to know who these characters are, even if it's simple. Like if I'm like, they rolled their eyes, they looked at each other, they leaned on their hand. Like I would just be as straightforward and generic as possible, because the first draft for me is about understanding how to let the plot play out through the story or behavior of characters. And what I'm showing in this exercise is I'm taking positions and motivations and creating behavior. I'm creating dialogue. And again, some of this dialogue would absolutely change, because it's first draft. And that's the thing, like when writing a first draft, sometimes it's difficult because we're like, what is the scene? And you sit there and you go, all right, how does he enter? And what is the atmosphere? And is it cold? Is it warm? What's it smell like in here? And that, to me, takes away from me understanding the characters. And by the way, I might get to chapter 10 and realize who these characters are by understanding their positions and motivations and just doing generic sentence work and movement and stage direction as they glanced at each other. Connecting on Jacob's concern. Now, this is the thing. This is the thing. When I work on this in a second draft, this would definitely leave. Because this is like internal. This is omniscient. I'm more third person limited. Like a rotating camera I like. But I would take that out and kind of go deeper into the moment, the psychological behavior of it. But when I'm working on the first draft, I need to understand their position and how the scene is playing out. So when I go into a second draft, I can add that immersion. Now, is Elvon of the Berenstein Bears family lineage? Just bear with me. He's more of the three bears, and he's closely related to Goldilocks. He's just right. Okay, so their glances at each other, connecting on Jacob's concern. Okay, because again, we want to know why characters are doing. Because the less we have to think when we're working on each earlier draft, like an outline or the draft itself, the more we can put into the subtext of our second draft or our third draft. And that's why it's important to understand positions and motivations and how to show those positions and motivations, because then when we are working, especially on a fourth draft where we're doing the real heavy line editing, we understand the subtext, because subtext is important. I have 4 main characters, and well, you should, my friend. That makes it interesting. You get to play with different voices. Is Goldilocks the honeypot? Yes, that is accurate. So just to be clear, in a first draft like this, me just kind of working out the feel of the scene, whatever like that, the subtext, they always tell you subtext is very important. So subtext and dialogue, subtext and behavior, all that. But to truly understand that subtext, you have to lay the groundwork. And it's this groundwork that I do over multiple chapters that allows me to say I know who these characters are by chapter 10 or even sometimes chapter 20, where I'm like, wow, okay, I'm finally feeling their voice. Then when I go back to edit, to do my next draft, what do I get to do? I get to take that new information, the new personalities. Are they witty? Are they not witty? Because right now, I don't know who these characters are. I just know their positions. And through their behavior, I'm going to start learning, this is this character's the more playful. This character's more stern. This character, right? And that'll allow me in the second draft to add that kind of personality. Goldilocks and the honey pots. All right. So let's keep it going. We should be packing, not talking, Jacob said. Now, basically, that's starting his position, right? Jacob thinks they should just leave the village and let the bear men have at it. Where more than things, right? So we're starting the position, but we're not directly stating it. He's actually creating the behaviors like, why are we not packing up, you know? Okay, getting ready. Whoop! Oh, some Goldilocks for stealing his food, breaking his chairs, and messing up his beds. he is a he's not only a squatter, he is a squirter. Okay. All right. All right. I get that cuz oh yeah. I know I've written my MCs differently to how they are speaking now. I know I need to vamp them up. Vamp them up in the first act. And that's fine. You know, like as writers, we should not be afraid to explore that. And as you're working on your book, remember, it's going to constantly be molding and changing. Even the line, like eventually you're going to be working on like small little line edits. But as far as character works go, as you're writing and you're getting to the second act and you're seeing your character evolve, lean into that. As you see your character evolve in Act 3, lean into that. What I will say as a caveat, though, is make sure their growing behavior and personality coming out isn't necessarily character development, because if you take the development of the character and put it back in Act 1, now they're not necessarily developing, they become static. You know, like, oh, their personality and choices are based, you know, on what they were in Act 3, and I went back and sort of gave them that same stance. Because again, characters might change their behavior because of the evolution of the plot and what they're experiencing, the story, and therefore they are growing by how they are responding and reacting to certain behavior. But if you're talking about idiocracies, if you're talking about like just the way they're responding in the sense of like they are more playful and you like that they are playful, or that you know, maybe their positions are becoming more clear to you, that's something you can go back and adjust. But I wouldn't necessarily, there is a difference between like somebody being more afraid at the end and you're like, oh, maybe I should make them afraid the whole time, and it's like, oh, they were a little confident in the beginning but now they're afraid in the end. Maybe that actually works. Maybe I shouldn't go back and make them more afraid. I should stay with that because now they have a you know, an arc evolution, you know. Bear, bar. Fun fact, bar in Italiano is coffee bar. It's like a coffee shop, you know? Oh, the bar. Anyway, I could be wrong on that. Any of my Italian-speaking friends, please let me know. All right, tell us how... what is it? Io palo italiano. Io palo italiano. All right. Tell us how you feel, Jacob. Now, what I'm doing is, remember, L says that people shouldn't have to run or leave behind the life they have. So when Jacob is like, we should be packing, not talking, I'm allowing L to be like, all right, buddy, tell us how you like he's not really concerned. He's like, my stance, my position is I'm not leaving. Half half sold, half demon creatures. We can't fight back against. All right, now I wrote this to be very simple and straightforward for a reason. I want to explain what I'm doing here, even if it's gonna tell us. Even if it's gonna end up changing, and what I'm trying to do is, this is creating a position for Jacob. And Jacob's position is those bear men are half souled, half demon creatures. And then the next position is we can't fight against them. We don't know as a reader, by the way, if the bear men are indeed half human or half demon or half just creature monsters. But we are putting in prejudice to Jacob's position against the bear men. And they are suggesting that they're actually demons. They're half demons and they're half human. So they are just a form, like a creature like that. And therefore, they're afraid of them because they're afraid of demons and stuff. Ciao bello salve, a mia amica. Emma. Flowers, Rohanna. Okay. So my point here is sometimes you're allowed to have characters say things that are their positions that aren't necessarily true or confirmed. Dialogue gives you a lot more leeway and room to add to the myth or to perpetuate the lie. Because remember, every narrative needs to have the truth of the lie revealed in the midpoint conflict. So this might be their truth, their lie that they believe. Okay? So, again, you don't always have to... Hi, Emma. You don't always have to represent the truth in character, behavior, and dialogue. You're allowed to kind of play with that, okay? They're not demons. They're animals, sure. Leaf. All right. All right. The bar-brawling bear men squash the squinty-eyed squirting squatters. M, tell us how you feel. Tell us how you feel. All right. Okay, so now if you notice, okay, I am writing L relaxed. The first thing he does, the door shut. I'll actually do this with a casual, because now it's L, with a casual click. L. von Beringstein walked across the tavern. Actually, we're going to do sitting at a table in the center of the room. He's... placed his legs up as he grabbed a beer. All right, so right away we know L is not, how do we say, working around urgency. There are no stakes in his mind. He's like, I'm not going, I'm standing my ground, in this case sitting his ground and drinking a beer. Davy crossed his arms and stood back a few feet from the group, taking in, taking it all in. And again, I wouldn't write this in like a final draft. Like this is a first draft. I just want to see behavior, and I want to have the most straightforward information to understand who these characters are. So I'm gonna write very straight, general. I won't get. I like to write lyrical with a cinematic touch. None of this is lyrical. None of this is cinematic. I'm not saying you need to do it the way I'm doing. I'm just showing you how to take position and kind of build on that, okay? But we are showing L's position. We are seeding their behavior, and we are seeding Davi's behavior and position. We should be packing, not talking. We could actually... well, Jacob said pacing near the bar. This is important because it means that he is saying we should be packing, not talking, well pacing, and we are now inserting Jacob's physicality based on his position, which is he thinks they should all leave. We should be getting out of here. Okay. Oh. The bottom bears began their brawl at the... All right, guys. We're going to do some alliterations today. All right. I love it. I love it. All right. Okay, and then so L is relaxed. So Jacob's first behavioral nod is ultimately, "We should be packing, not talking," Jacob said, pacing near the bar. Davy rubbed his beard, glancing over to Melissa. Their glances at each other, connecting on Jacob's concern. So Melissa's behavior is doesn't want to go in alone, but agrees with Davy. However, Davy also wants to do something about it. So we're showing that they're sort of on the same page, even though they have 0 words yet. They are, in a sense, in on something. Elle is just pushing back. "Tell us how you feel, Jacob." Very nonchalant, Elle down half his mug, right? He's not really necessarily concerned. Jacob, on the other hand, is, which means that he comes back with a little bit more aggression, making comments. But the truth is, those bear men are half soul, half demon creatures we can't fight against. His fear, his concern is moving his dialogue position. Okay? And by the way, he's motivated by survival. Like, we got to get out of here. They are half demon creatures. I don't have time for this. Sorry, Thomas. Focusing, putting on serious face again. I like the jokes. I'm a man. I love the alliteration. I'm just saying. It just sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe what I'm saying is not interesting or something, like, and I get my brain, because I'm self-conscious sometimes, as we should all be, because it humbles us. But sometimes it like I surrender. I just want to make sure that what I'm saying is interesting enough to keep going. Otherwise, I switch gears or something like that. I like this stuff because, as a developmental editor and like writing teacher, I like to like analyze, and then, something like this sentence, this right here, when I'm writing like the second draft of it per se, like, now that I understand it and now that it's just straightforward and right in the face, it allows me to sort of play with this and move with it. And I like to read stuff that feels like I'm watching a film or a movie. So this foundational work is what helps me sort of approach that. It's what helps me go deeper, and it's that subtext and the subconscious reality of these characters that becomes that characterization. Like when you're reading something and you're feeling these characters and you're believing them, it's because of subtext. It's because you're staying true to their positions and motivations through behavior, through their resistance, through their agency, whatever the case is. It's that underlining foundation that we don't necessarily have our hands held while watching it unfold that gives us an emotional connection or empathy to these characters. And that all starts, for me, it starts with broad, general, basic foundational work that really kind of allows me to have a little bit more control when I start getting to the more convoluted, lyrical, cinematic element. Even when like writing a screenplay, like literally it's just like you have the dialogue be like, "We have to do this." But I don't care. Well, you have to care, because if you don't care, how are we going to... And that's a first draft. And then what does like a third or fourth draft come out to? It's a little snarkier maybe, or maybe they're not saying it. It's like, whatever you want to do, we'll do. You're the boss. Well, I don't know. You seem a little hesitant with that. It's not that I'm hesitant. It's just, maybe we should be asking a few more questions. But that kind of behavior doesn't happen until you understand what they directly would say. And that's one of the secrets to really strong, authentic, natural dialogue, is first know what they are saying, and then you can play with what they will say. And it's the same thing with behavior. Understanding positions and the foundation of position and motivations, or their beliefs. That's what a position is, a belief, like something they believe in. That's for anyone who's just jumping in. But understanding those on a foundational level without putting any thought into it, like this person wants to keep their family safe. That means everything they do is to keep their family safe. If they don't care about their family's safety, which would be a position, right? They might not be too concerned. They'd be like, "Yeah, I'm with Jacob. We should get out of here." In fact, I'm not even going to be at this meeting. I'm just going to leave. And then I see Billy Bob, Isaac, already packed and leaving, and his family's like, "Where are you going? We're staying to fight." And like, "Good luck," But we don't understand that until we see the direct meaning of where they stand. No, I just do that stuff to fill in between questions. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. You keep it interesting, Thomas. Sometimes I have Tourette's typing. I mean, that's fair. Every time I see somebody pop up, so I'm like, hello. My brain's gonna brain. That's just what's gonna happen. Anyway, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And again, it's not anyone or what you're doing. It's me. Like, I have the issues. Like, sometimes my brain, like these last 2 weeks. And by the way, I am a paid professional writer. Like, I made a living with screenplays, and developmental editing and writing other people's books. And for the last 2 weeks, I've been having like an anxiety induced curl up on the floor, kind of like, I'm a terrible writer. It's because my artist brain, I don't know what it is. It just like leaked in, and like I was working on like a zero draft and trying to make it a first draft, and I'm just like, I'm terrible, and you know, I have a really good support system. You know, I talk to my other fellow friends and my writer friends and everybody. And, you know, you need that kind of like that support. But like at the same time, you know, I'm like, what am I doing? You know, because I know that I write differently than, say, a Sanderson's or a Martin. And well, you should, because that's your voice, right? Every writer should have their own voice and their style. And as a lesson, I guess even right now, I'm even like kind of seeing it unfold, is like, it's all right if it doesn't look like other people's stuff. It's all right if it's different, because that's how you become the next, you know, Rob, or, you know, the next Nora Jones, or the next, you know, Sanderson. Not that you're the next Sanderson, but like you become your own thing, your own voice, and you have to explore what is different, what isn't the norm, using phrasing that might not necessarily be so direct, you know. And but I also have to remember, like, I'm not writing to market. Like, I'm not trying to write a book that sells 1 million copies, is YA or middle grade. I'm just trying to write a book that is something that I would want to read. You know, as Samuel L. Jackson says, he goes, I only choose movies that I want to see on the screen. I won't be in a movie I wouldn't want to see. He's like, so even if it's bad, like if people are like, it's bad and no one saw it, I'm happy because I just made something that I want to see, you know. So, but anyway, I'm sorry. That was a little aside. I figured I'd share that. And now you've got us. I do got you all. You are a support group. You're people that really make me feel like I'm in a community, and I do love that. Especially because, you know, I live in the Midwest now. In New York, I could go outside and throw a rock, and I'd be around all my people. And you know, being here for a couple of years now, because my dad's been gone for 3 years now, so there's not a lot of community, you know, unless I'm a farmer. So it's nice that I get to spend these weekends with everybody, and we get to talk and laugh. Yeah, right. I have doubts, sir. The naughty kids sitting at the back of the class. That's right, naughty kids. No way, dude. Oh, I appreciate that. I do, Ro. I appreciate the love. But sometimes, you know, it's okay. It's okay to have some doubts. You know, but again, Lee Childs, who writes Jack Reacher, he didn't start writing until he was 40. And he didn't start writing until he was 40. Meaning he wasn't a novelist. He got fired from his job, which was in television, but he wasn't a writer. And he got fired, and he says, let me try writing a book. And his first book, 18 months later, got him picked up, and he became Lee Child. And he sold over 100 million copies worldwide of his Jack Reacher series. And, you know, the rest is history. So, you know, if you read his first book, by the way, he started his books in one POV and then changed the POV. And then it was like first person, then it was third person limited, then it was omniscient. Like, because he was trying to discover what he was comfortable with, what his voice is. And I think that's a good lesson just in general, that us as writers, It's okay if your first book is one way and your next book is another way and your third book, because you have to get comfortable with what you do. You have to learn your style. You have to learn your voice. And I would almost recommend writing terrible books. And by that, I mean, like, obviously you're going to write a book and think it's great. And then you're going to write your second book and be like, this is better than that book. And then by your fifth or sixth book, you're going to be like, wow, I was terrible back then. And that's like the artist's brain. And it's like, you know what? I needed to write those books that I believe are not as good as this book to get to this book. And I think that's an important thing. You always want what you haven't got, though. Someone else usually thinks that about you. Yeah, that's a fair statement. A fair statement. I appreciate all this. Sometimes it's fun amusing you and getting you to smile while you're sharing it. I do love smiling, and I do appreciate you, sir. I do appreciate you. I started around 35, so what was that, 5 years ago, right? That was 5 years ago. 35. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, it's a long time. 35 years old. Yeah, age is not just a number, you know. Even Alan Rickman didn't start his acting career professionally in film and television until he was in his 40s. Do I have to have all four of my characters with flaws, or could I have one of them be with the want, need, and flaws alone? Hannah, to answer your question, the truth is every character needs to have flaws, but those flaws don't have to be like, you know. The reason you have flaws, by the way, just to be clear, isn't to quote unquote make your characters a weaker character. It's just like, you know, the easiest way to have a flaw is if a character is super confident. You know, maybe they have, maybe they actually have doubts, and the confidence is their way of hiding their doubts, and that would be a flaw. Maybe they're super strong, so their flaw is that they're overconfident because they think they could solve everything with their physical strength. It's not necessarily a quote-unquote weakness, but it is a flaw because it is opposing to their strength. In that case, their literal strength. If they're really smart, maybe they don't really connect with people they don't have empathy because they just work intellectually and logically. So their empathy is like, but logically, why would I already told you I'm sorry. Like, move on. I know I hurt your feelings, but yeah, but you don't know why you hurt my feelings. Well, because it's just feelings. Like, move on. Like, that is a flaw technically. So all characters need that to be dimensional. That's the only reason not the only reason. There are many reasons, but you need characters to be dimensional. Where was I? Let's get back into it. Okay, so they're not demons. They're they're animals. Sure. Leave. This is leave. Okay. Leave or not. Tabby said, dropping his arms to the table as he stepped forward. Doesn't solve. Okay. Let's see. Let's do. Laughed. Great. The new guy. Melissa said. Okay. So L. Back. All right. So anyway. I'm just sort of like playing around here, but let's get into it a little bit. So now we're bringing in Davi. So leave or not, dropping. Why didn't I write stropping? Dropping his arms to the table as he stepped forward. Okay, that doesn't solve them being alive. So this creates an interesting position for Davi because we know that Davi's position is He wants to do something about this. So he's saying, look, if we leave or if we stay, the real problem is that we have to do. There's something bigger we have to do, right? But he's not saying that directly. He's saying he's connecting to the empathy of the other characters. Yeah, all right, you don't want to leave, you want to stay. So leave or not. So he's understanding what their positions are, and he's like, leave or not. That doesn't solve them being alive, because he's saying they're a future threat. We have to do something about that. And then L left. Great, the new guy. So now we know that Davi hasn't even been here long in the village. Okay, we could explore that, which makes his positioning more interesting, because it's not just about protecting the village and not just about protecting his family. This character has a moral code, right? He's thinking about the future. So, all right, he's a strategist, okay? And then Melissa's like, he's right. And then Elle's like, he didn't say anything. And that's true. Technically, Jacob didn't say anything. He's just proposing that there's more of a threat out there than if we leave. Or, if we leave, they're going to follow us. If we stay, they're going to continue to kill us. So it creates a nice dynamic of conversation. And that. All of this is created because we understand at the minimum what their positions are. We understand. We understand that Davi wants to do something about it. Okay, Melissa doesn't want to go in alone, but agrees with Davi. So that's where I would lead the conversation, by the way. The conversation would get into, but she's already on his side. We've already seeded that with they're looking at each other. She's defending his position because she knows his position. Even though he didn't necessarily say anything, she's already on the same page as Davi. She agrees with leave or not. That doesn't solve them being alive. Now, she also should have her own additional position. So, which is she doesn't want to go in alone. Oh, what's this? Okay, could I have them share the same wants, needs, flaws, lies, misbeliefs, fears, and truths? For I have the yes and no. Flaws come from the character, who they are. Their beliefs come from who they are. However, there are communities that all believe, like if they all believed in the tree gods, they would have similar beliefs and fears and truths based on being deep religious people who believe in the trees. So you can do that. But individually, characters also need to have dimension beyond. So like, I have a mother. Well, my mother was a born again and my father was a Catholic. So they both had some sort of belief in the faith, because all Catholics are Christians, but not all Christians are Catholics, right? So they had that similarity. But even in that world, whatever their beliefs were, they also had individual beliefs, that shaped and molded them. So you have to think you got to think a little bit more beyond that. I've been doubting my writing ability for almost 50 years. Some doubts run canyon deep. 50 years of writing, I would say you're doing all right. You're keeping it going. You're playing when one needs to play. Yeah, but it's good. It's good to have doubts. It reminds us that we have to always be working on it. We always got to be playing on it. I'm here for writing Jesus himself. Okay. Are they all protagonists, or is it Davi? I think I missed it. Well, since it's all from Davi's POV, he is the main protagonist, at least in this example, this scene. So yeah, because we did this up here and we were saying that Davi's family was attacked and he's going to go out and do something. So Davi is the main protagonist. You can have more than one protagonist, though. I don't know if you know that. Protagonists just drive the narrative, okay? There's a difference between a main character and a sub-character, and a protagonist. Protagonists drive the narrative forward. So if you have a dual protagonist story, or you have three protagonists, But there is always sort of the lead protagonist. But I can't believe a lady named Kath got a whole religion based there. Me either, I'll be honest with you. Praise the Lord, brother. Praise the Lord. Kath Olex. That's it. All right. I'm wondering if I could go out of order with the 15 beats or stay in it. I'm not an expert on the 15 beats, but I'm going to go with no. You got to stay in order. And the reason is because narratively speaking, you can't do the ending before the setup or it doesn't pay off. However, you might say, but Thomas, Pulp Fiction starts with the ending. Not really. It starts with a prologue, which is the ending. And then it goes into establishing sort of a forward motion. I have made TJB facepalm. Yeah. Congratulations, sir. You win a prize. I'll send it to you. Cat Olick. 'Twas the Irish. Oh, Cat Olick 'twas the Irish that created her. I love it. I love it. I love it. By the way, I like that you're writing in the style, the dialect. I just want to put that out. Oh my God, I'm sat on my bed. Tika is on the windowsill, and a black cat walks past my door into the bedroom. I jump up to shut the door so my girl doesn't freak out. I let her out downstairs. We're going to have to get you some fences over there. Go back to the bathroom, and it's empty. Did you just have a glitch in the Matrix? Is there a glitch? A glitch in the Matrix? What is going? Are you in a haunted house? All right. Real quick, we are gonna go over the poll soon. So if you haven't yet voted, what usually drives your main protagonist? But I do want to say this much. Do you have any questions on what I did today, or was going over, or what I was explaining, and you just need me to sort of go a little deeper into it? Please let me know in the comments below, or the comments. She saw it too. She was freaking out. I think there might be a ghost cat in your house. We're on our way, Flowers. Let me just get it. Let me get a plane ticket. We're on our way. Yeah. So if you have any, no, seriously, let us know if you're safe. If you're being haunted, I want to know. But if you have any questions, please. Feel free to ask those questions, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to answer the questions. If you don't have questions about what I did today, feel free to ask me writing questions in general. Like if you have writing questions about your book, you know, your process, outlining, whatever the case is. Remember, I am a developmental editor and a writing teacher, so it's basically free advice, you know. All right. I'll give a second or two for people to come up with questions. Whoa, that was weird. It seems weird. I think there's nothing there, so like you just had like a spectral ghost. All right. Oh, Shadow of the Hedgehog. Welcome. I have a question. I am making. Oh, let me go big. I am making my story, and I want to make my character slowly grow into the hero he is destined to become. But all the power scaling names for my characters, their abilities as well, makes it hard where to start. All right, let me ask a question, and then you clarify if I'm right on the question. Well, actually, I'm going to present what I think is happening, and then I just need you to clarify that. So you're saying your character is starting off already with powers and strengths, okay, and everything else. They are what they are. They're already super strong. This brings us to the Superman issue. You know, Superman is already, you know, super strong and vulnerable. He's powerful. He's fast. He's quick thinking. He can see everything. He can look through people's blouses. All right, so. How do you show growth? Sometimes you don't have to, but if you're asking to actually show growth, because you could have flat characters, you know, like a Sherlock Holmes, or we just mentioned Jack Reacher. Those are like flat characters, right? Or even the guy from Da Vinci Code. Those are like flat character arcs, but there's still like growth to the plot and everything like that. But you're asking specifically, making my story, and I want to make my character slowly grow into the hero. So what you could do is maybe the story starts with them being aware of their powers, and they could be in control of their powers, but they haven't made the step into being selfless to be a hero. Maybe they've been living in that world, their existence, their world, but they're mostly keeping to themselves, and they use their powers for themselves. Not that they use them in a antagonistic way, or that it's negative, or they're aggressive with it. It's just they keep their powers to themselves because they're not exposing the world to their truth. And maybe the book is about them becoming their true form, and ultimately revealing who they are. So the growth is that they have become vulnerable to being more open to who they are and accepting their role as a hero. Is that what you're basically asking? I feel it is, and I think that's a way you could go about it. But if that's not the way you want to go about it, what you have to think about is, where are they, and what is internally or externally something that can push back on them, whether it's self-doubt, whether it's love, whether it's, whatever the case is. Maybe they want to start a business, but they're like a Superman. You just have to create an external or internal obstacle, and then the growth is them learning how to deal with it. Because even if they are all super and all powerful, as per your question, and let's say hypothetically, let's say they're trying to start an accounting business, they might not know how to run a business. They're just really powerful, but they don't understand the inner workings of business, and it's the same thing as if the accountant is really smart with numbers, but they don't know how to run. They don't know how to talk to people. So, so you gotta figure out where they are, and then say to yourself, well, what's an external or internal challenge that would push back on them that has nothing to really do with their strength per se or their powers. That's how I would approach it. Please let me know if that helped, or if I'm in the vicinity of understanding your question. Ro, I get confused with all the terminology sometimes. As do I, sir. As do I. I'm still getting accustomed to a lot of it. I used to just write stuff down and make sure it makes sense. Listen, that's what we do as writers. We make stuff up and we write it and we put it and we write it down. Honestly, I don't think you need to know the terminology. I'll put it into perspective. When I was growing up with all the music, and like my life was in the music world, I grew up around music, like jazz musicians. My grandfather was a jazz musician. My father was a musician. My brother was a musician. My mom played piano. All my aunts played piano one way or another. Like everybody played. So theory just was sort of like a second language to me at that time. So it was like English, Italian, music. So I was always under the assumption, the more you understand theory, the better of a musician you are, right? And this is to directly connect to your question here, or your statement. So when I started meeting people like other musicians, like in the world of music, like the professional world, and you realize that not all great instrumentalists, musicians, guitarists, piano players necessarily understand theory. They might know, what a circle fifth is. They might know, if I say, hey, play an A chord, they know what an A chord is. And they know that if they play any chord that's not a flat or sharp, that they're playing in C minor or A major. And they know they could play any chord that's not a sharp or flat, and it'll work. But they might not necessarily understand the theory behind why it works. It's just they've played so long and honed their skills so long that they know that these chords always work. They don't mess up. They might know that the G major scale has one sharp, and that is a F sharp. Okay, they might know these things, but they might not be in tune to theory. Jimi Hendrix is well renowned for not understanding theory. He just understood the guitar and the instrument, right? And there was a guy I met within the music industry that could just any instrument. He could play a horn stuff. He could play piano. He could play guitar. He could play bass, drums. He could play whatever. He could sing. He was a great singer. But if I said something to him with theory, like it was like, all right, we're gonna start on the one. We're actually gonna play the 1-6. We're probably gonna do 1-6-3 and maybe just jump to 1-6-4. Maybe change it up a little bit. If we can, we'll diminish whatever, and we'll do it. We'll play in a 4-4. We'll do that for X amount of bars, and we'll start playing. We could play over each other. So you could play 3-4s 4 times, and I'll play 4-4 3 times, and we'll play with the power. And he's just like, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, oh, But if I was talking to a jazz musician, we'd be on the same page. I feel that same way about writing. Because I am a teacher and I am a developmental editor, understanding the terms only just gives me greater insight to teach it simply. That is the only reason I dove deep into the terminology and why I dove deep into exploring and analyzing it. The more I understand it, the simpler I can explain it. I don't believe writers generally need to understand what the word plot means. I do believe they need to understand what plot is. Just like I don't believe people need to understand what story is, but they do need to know how story works. And just because you don't know what the word story means in the context of every narrative needs plot and story, plot is what needs to happen no matter what, and story is how it unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices of characters. I don't think you need to understand that as much as, are you showing things happening, and are those things happening through your characters by how they're experiencing it and how they're making choices? That in itself is plot and story. So if it's on the page and you're doing it, if you're like, well, I know a series of events have to happen, and those series of events have to happen in a certain order, that makes sense. Plot. And I know that I need to show immersion. I might not know what the word immersion means, but I need to show the characters like feeling and like being alive in the scene. And, I know that they have, I know they have to make choices, which is agency. So at the same, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe you need to know the terminology unless you want to. But again, even like when I taught music, I had to understand it so I can just break it down. Like when I taught scales, unless the student wanted to learn the theory behind why the scales work, I taught them patterns. And you basically learn the same pattern and then just move the positioning. And then you could play the same major scale in every position. You just got to learn the finger pattern. And I go, look, this is the pattern. I'm going to show you some picking techniques, and I'm going to show you how to jump strings, and I'm going to show you, this will be exercise. It'll help you memorize the pattern. It'll help you memorize and increase your pick structure, and it'll teach you how to, so like the exercise helped on many levels, but at the same time, like they don't need to know that the root of a major is, the third of a major is the minor scale. So you could just jump to the pentatonic of a major scale by just playing the third. Like, they don't need to know that unless they wanted to. So it's the same thing with writing. The reason I talk about the terminology is because I more or less want to show you what it is, and then the idea that it's associated with a word or a term, that's really good too. But that's why I like doing the physical example. This is a physical example of what motivations and positions look like. But in reality, the simple version, I thought I was showing the screen. The simple version of this is, this is me showing you the positions and motivations. But the simple version is how do we create believable characters? How do you create natural, believable dialogue? How do you give characters distinct voices or behavior? And at the end of the day, if you understood the terminology, well, you give them positions and motivations. And you understood what those meant, then that's all I would have to say. But in reality, if you don't know what position and motivation means, then this is the other way to do it. So I try to do both. I try to show you, look, what do they care about? All right, well, now that we know what they care about, we're going to see it unfold, Anyway. I'm writing the 15 beats for my story with color code, and oh my gosh, it's working. Yeah! Congratulations, Hannah. I'm glad that's working for you. Keep it up. 15 beats. Can't go wrong with that. The terminology helps make sense of what all the parts are. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, the more you learn about something, the more you jump into something, it's going to help kind of make sense to everything. But it is what it is. All right, we are at the time. We are in the new hour, so I'm gonna do a little something. If you haven't, done so already, please subscribe. You just got to hit that bell icon so you don't miss out. And obviously, we all know you got to bloop the beard as well as blooping that like button if you haven't done so already. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to find me and discover me, make a right left here.com. But let's do some audience answers and questions. That's where we are right now. Let's get into it. I want my character to try and figure out who he used to be, but one of the main problems I have is that the story I am making is that skipped writing the first story and wrote the second one already. Okay, that's fine. So, you want to explore the main protagonist. To try to figure out who he used to be. Well, who is he currently? That's the first question you have to answer. Who is he currently? And then why does he want to figure out who he used to be? Is who he is currently something he doesn't agree with? Is he struggling with where he is in life, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever the case is? Is he battling something greater inside him, like where did he go wrong? Is he dealing with some sort of anxiety where he's constantly replaying his past in his life? Is he in a place where he feels he's not a good person compared to who he was in the past? If you can answer those kind of questions and start figuring those things out, really you don't have to have the first story, because what you're doing is you're having them start where they are in whatever behavior they're at, and they're going to slowly be working through that. And you can start bringing in other characters where they start making comments about it, you used to be nicer, what's the deal, or whatever the case is. They could have flashbacks. You can easily just add a flashback here and there that are triggered by an emotional truth, something that makes them say, this thing is making me think about how I used to be. Like, I used to be so much more patient. And why did I get so frustrated with this this person that I was saving, whatever? And then maybe that triggers a flashback from when they were patient, and and then it introduces maybe a love interest or a best friend or a family member, and they're patient in that memory. So then when they come out of the flashback, they're like, and then the next scene is them going to see that friend, family, or whatever the case, the love interest, and being like, whatever, I missed you, or I know I haven't really talked in a long time. And they might be like, well, ever since you doing the BS that you did, I'm actually glad I haven't seen you. I'm still angry about that. And now you're connecting the past story with the present story, and you're connecting it to they are working on something. And that becomes something where they're just like, well, I don't want to be who I am. I want to be who I was. I want to, I need you in my life. You're somebody that's important. And if my behavior now is going to keep that from me, I know I have to do work on that. And now you're writing like a character-driven piece, even though it's superheroes or, people with powers, whatever the case. I hope that helps. What else? What else we got here? Oh, by the way, I am now 2 chapters ahead in this. I am flying through it. I'm getting closer and closer to where the book is going to be fairly quick. The stuff I'm writing currently, like the first, I would say, 18 chapters. The first, it's really the first 6 or 7 chapters, is filled with a lot of explanation and explaining the plot points and explaining what each act does. And then the second half of the book is like more fluid, and it shows examples and stuff like that. So I've been really killing it. I did 1,700 words on it yesterday, so that was I see, I see, I see. I'm glad you see, and really, please join us every Saturday and Sunday. And if you have questions about your book, and while you're working on your book, ask them. Ask them in the. You could do it. Usually I do an hour of a lesson, and then I do an hour where I ask, hey, ask questions. But if you have to ask a question while I'm doing a lesson, feel free to. This channel is here to help everybody. You are quite welcome, as they say in Italiano. Prego. My sleeping curse is more of a veiled dream curse. That's based on Matthew West's Truth Be Told song. I love when we are inspired by other arts, and I think that's the reason we need more art than we do football, if you know what I mean. Like when I was in sports in high school, well, junior high, high school, I was also in the art program and the music program and the jazz program, and the art stuff never got any money in comparison to when I did football or basketball or wrestling or all those. We always had money. And I'm like, whatever. My heart has calmed down. What would be the least number of words for a chapter when your previous ones range between 25 and 3,500? That's a great question, Flowers, and it has a nuanced answer. All right. First and foremost, remember, I'm going to say this for everybody who's listening. Pace is the speed at which information is presented to the reader. Okay? So if the 2,500 to 3,500 words is dense information, or more accurately, terminology, lots of plot is playing out in thick detail, exposition, all that stuff. 2,500 to 3,500 words is a lot for dense. But I also talk about fast reads and slow reads. Fast reads is with the logical narrative movement. Any terminology is fairly inferred. We're connecting titles to their behavior, and everything is just making natural, logical sense. That would make 2,500 to 3,500 words fairly quick of a read, and therefore the next chapter, if it is a quick-paced chapter, but it's 1,000 words, that might feel like it's continuing, that it's just, whoa, this is just flying by. I would also say you could have 2,500 words where it's not dense pace, but it is moving through that fast read element, that logical narrative movement. But then the next chapter, 1,000 words, is just pure, just mythology and history and what needs to happen, and it's just pure dense. All right, exposition. And that would mean that 1,000 pages feels longer than 25 to 3,000 pages. So that's the first part before I give a deeper answer. When you're looking at your chapter word counts, if you're writing your first draft and you're just trying to get through it, don't even think about your word count. Just write out the chapters, because you're going to be doing a lot of editing. You're going to be adding and taking away. You're going to realize that, why do I need to say this? Hey, I'm just repeating myself. But if you've done all that work and you're on, if you're working on your second, third, or fourth draft, especially your fourth draft, and you're looking at your word count for the chapters, basically a rule of thumb is, if you have 3 long chapters in a row, you want to have one short chapter, a shorter chapter. If you have 3 short chapters in a row, you might want to have 1 longer chapter. The other thing is, if you're going by plot points, some plot points are going to allow for context, which means those are going to be a little longer, and then other things are about moving along, or whatever the case may be. I guess if I'm just going to give you a quick answer, there is no direct word count number. It's based on what your chapters are doing, what plot point it's in, and are you purposefully slowing it down to let the plot breathe? So again, if something big or new or informative appeared, which is pace, which would be dense, by the way, something big that happens, something emotional that happens, that's considered dense. That's a slower pace, because we're living in that. That means maybe the next chapter, you got to let it breathe a little bit. It's okay to maintain a slower pace of them dealing with what just happened. But then, maybe you're like, let's get them to take some action. Let's make them have a little bit more agency. Now the chapter's a little faster. So that's how I would look at it, But again, you could have 10 chapters in a row that are each 2,500 words. But those chapters by themselves might be giving the reader a different experience. 2,500 words could feel fast or slow. 2,500 words could feel dense and slow paced, or it could be fast paced. The word count itself isn't necessarily the defining factor of what a chat. My suggestion to you is make sure your chapter has a beginning, a middle, and end. It sets up context enough to challenge it, and then enough to resolve that chapter and move it forward. That's really the secret to it. The word count, not necessarily. When the time of release for the outline book arrives, would I be able to go about purchasing multiple paperback copies to give to others I came across who would be... Yeah, 100%. Yes, please do. That book, I am very proud of that book where it's at, and I can't wait till it's finished. I was not intending on writing that book. I was intending on getting the self-help books out and starting to get the fantasy books out. But then I just started writing these how-to books, these how to outline and how to write, right? Like how to write prose and everything like that. That book I haven't really wrote yet, but I outlined it. And once I started writing this 27, I was just like, why didn't I write this book sooner? Like, I'm loving this book. Like, I really love talking about this stuff. One second. Sorry. Dry throat. But I love digging deep. That's why I'm a developmental editor. I love picking things apart and just to talk about, how writing works and narrative works and outlining works. It just became something that I just became deeply passionate about. I know you're saying you don't think you write dense, but dense doesn't necessarily always have to be terminology. It could just be a really immersed emotional moment. Like, for example, if a character dies and they're holding them and they're crying and they just went through this big battle, that's dense. A lot just happened. It's a slow pace. We are slowing it down. We're sitting in that moment. They're feeling it. So the next chapter technically should still be slow, but not as dense. But it should be them dealing with their emotions because something crazy just happened. And you also want the reader to be like, whoa, okay, we're not just jumping into the next thing. Good. We're sitting in this. I needed to sit in it too. We just lost my favorite character, favorite side character. I need to breathe a little bit. But that means like the next chapter after that should be them taking action or having agency. And action doesn't mean that they fight back. It's just something we're moving along, In my stories world, I have 3 foxglove courts, of course, called that. Sorry, my dyslexia is not it's a Dalmatian. Took me a second. Peach Hybrid Court, Sunset Foxglove Court, and all right. And I've been doing research on it. And well, you should always do research when you can, especially if you're writing about something. The more you understand something, the more you can write it and add some depth to it. I write dense all the... Get it? There's a play on words. It's dense. Everything I write gets real dark real quick. Use a lighter pen. All right, just kidding. Okay. All right. I worry it says... I think I'm getting a sore throat. All right. Everything I write gets real dark real quick. I worry it says something dark about... something dark about me. And if I edit the dark out, I'll have nothing to say. I am dense. May I say something, Em? Remember, what we write isn't who we are. Okay? It might have elements of us. be it we think about it or we want to have a discussion about it, or there are themes that we want to sort of put out into the light, into the world, and say, we should really be talking. This is something that is so nuanced that having a stern stance on it doesn't make sense. And so I'm gonna allow it to be something that's represented in my books and my stories. At the end of the day, though, remember, you got to write for you. Write for you, and then the business brain will help you with the marketing and get the book out there. But if you're worried about what other people will think and stuff like that, maybe the truth won't be in your book, and it's the truth that people really connect with. So I recommend just writing as dark as you want. Unless, of course, you're writing a Christmas kids story. There might be some contrasts and contradictions with the tone and themes. But, if you're just writing books that are your books, whatever it is you're working on, allow it to flow through you. Be you. Be true to you. So I should just continue writing and sort out later. Yes! This is for everybody out there. Do not edit while you write. Do not think about chapter lengths while you write. Do not worry about the stuff you will be working on at the end. And the reason I say that is because if you edit while you write, when you get to the end, you're going to realize you're going to have to add stuff and adjust stuff. You're going to have to connect the dots. Oh, I have a plot hole, or whatever the case is. So that means you're going to have to rewrite what you do. After you finish writing, you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to reintroduce immersion. You're going to have to be like, there's not enough immersion. It's mostly sight or some smell. So let me add a little bit of immersion. That means you're going to be adding words. Do not edit until the book is in its final form and you're ready to do the line editing and the copy editing. As far as chapter lengths go, all of that will be determined by the end product, where right before you get to line editing and copy editing, you have to say to yourself, where does it feel long? Where does it feel short? Where should I be breathing more? Which again would turn into more prose writing, deleting, or adjusting. If you edit while you work, you're just doing extra work because you have to do all that anyway. So this is another reason why I do foundational work, where I'll do like the short form outline, which is just straightforward. This stuff has to happen. And then the extended outline just takes those and starts figuring out like the little things and adding like character subplots and stuff. And then I do the zero draft and I beat out and outline the chapters. And then I start writing the prose, and those prose are usually very generic, like we did. Like these are all generic. These are all generic prose, because they're not supposed to be pretty, and that's the point. Because I know my second draft is where I'm going to start adding immersion. My third draft is going to be where I start adding more information and details. Whatever the case may be, you're always going to be building on what you have before, and by the time you get to the end, you'll be able to go through the whole thing and take notes and say, do I have enough context? Did I challenge and push back enough? Am I resolving things as the narrative goes while keeping the momentum forward? Those are things you can't see in a chapter. For the whole narrative, you can't see that in a chapter. So you have to finish the book and just read through it, and just start taking notes. So this is to everybody. This is not for flowers. This is not like that. This is more like just something to keep in mind. Like, yes, you just write it out. Just if you're working on the outline, get the outline done. Then go through it, adjust, add, subtract. Then do the extended outline. When you're done, go through it, add, adjust, and subtract. Then do your zero drafts. As soon as you finish all the zero drafts, go back, read through, take notes, and then adjust, add, or subtract. And then you're going to start writing your first draft. And you can do the same thing. You're going to write all the prose out now. And then you're going to go through, read it, take notes, adjust, add, and subtract. And you just keep doing that. And what that does is it refines the stone. It makes your David over time. Seriously, that outline book is going to be so helpful and the bomb. I really hope so, Ro. I am putting a lot of passion into that book. It's filled with humor. It's filled with pop culture, but I also wrote it in a way that just it's like me talking to somebody, like it's like mentor student, and I use a lot of examples to make it really easy, and I show a lot of what I'm talking about, and I don't just say do this. I say do this. This is why, and these are the things that you're trying to accomplish with it. So it's filled with a very strong sort of how I would teach writing, especially back in the day in the theater, and how I teach writing now. So it's basically just that right and left. yeah, just right through your book. I'm getting a sore throat too. Is it? I think it's because we're friends and we just our essences. We're just so proud of each other that we're giving each other a sore throat. As I'm writing my 15 beats, I'm realizing that I don't need my note cards, which I got ready to do the scenes on last night, for I'm doing them within the 15 beats. Well, that's good. That's good. You're finding your rhythm. You're finding what works. And that's the thing about writing. As you develop your style, you're going to be adding and subtracting what works and what doesn't work. You're going to be assimilating new things. And really, over time, you're gonna be doing that for the rest of your life as a writer. Not one way is going to work. I know that the way I write every single book I've ever written, I have adjusted or changed something slightly, even if, or you just become so in tuned to your process that you skip things. You're like, oh, I don't really have to. I could just go right to this. You just follow the flow, whatever works. Santa Claus, where is his claws? What's this? What's this? There's something in the air. What's this? What's this? Oh, white things everywhere. The best song though, and then I'm the boogeyman. Right? All right. What we got here? That darkness doesn't have to rule the day, but don't shy away from evil being evil per se. So that when it is vanquished, it will be all the more wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. Excellent advice, Ro. Also, I liked reading it like a villain. I'll read this one like a villain. I also hit 100,000 words yesterday. At the end of PP25. By the way, excellent. Everyone give Flowers a wholeheartedly celebratory 100,000 words. You finished PP25, so you have 2 more to go. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Woo! Fantastic. The resolution tomorrow. Congratulations, Flowers. Hannah Hunt says, I'm wondering with some of the beats that are multi-scenes, could I do them in a couple of chapters? Yes. You can make a chapter a scene long. You could have a chapter have multiple scenes. Just make sure that the narrative through line of that chapter and or scene are connected narratively. You could have a chapter. Oh my God! Oh, cheers, Ro. Though not sure I want to vanquish it. I don't know how I missed it. All right. Okay. What else we got? What do we got? Oh, big congrats, Flowers. Big congrats to Flowers. Do I have a hat? Oh, no, it's all the way up there. My hat is too far away. I was going to do like a... Hello, my baby. All right, let's talk about the poll. Poll. What usually drives your protagonist? We have external goal, sort of bloop bloop. We have inner desire, protect my family. Plot dictates it, sword now. And my characters made me do it. We have a tie right now with inner desire and plot dictates it. Interesting, interesting. Interesting. Woohoo! You should be happy about this, Flowers. That's all I'm saying. All right, so looking at this Guess which one I did? The characters made me do it. That's what she said. Protect that. So Inner Desire is character driven, just for the record. And the plot dictates it. Okay. Would be what I would call things happening. So be very careful that the plot moves your characters around. You want to make sure it. By the way, there's nothing wrong with a plot-driven narrative, but make sure your characters' experiences and choices are within the validity of that plot. That doesn't mean that their inner desires are pushing them forward. However, that would be beneficial. But if it is plot-driven, sometimes we lose sight of what's deeper in there. Now, again, Sherlock Holmes, Jack Reacher, Dan Brown books, those are all plot-driven. The plot is taking the character around. The characters have agency in the sense that they're like, I will follow this clue. But usually the inner desire, though we could say Sherlock Holmes just wants answers, like his inner desire is just to know the answer. But in reality, the plot is, here's a clue. Here's the next clue. Characters made me do that is the old, I just transpose or transcribe. I dictate what the characters, I'm a dictation, The characters are telling me these things are happening. I'm just like trying to keep them like, yo, calm down, slow. So that all happens. But that's good. That's good. Yeah, I what usually drives my main protagonist is inner desire. That's usually I like to start inside and work my way out. And the inner desire for me, the way I like to have it happen is the inner desire creates the plot, which then formulates the external goal, and ultimately, because I understand the positions and motivations, my characters make themselves do it. I drink my characters more. She's talking about this lovely cup that is available on makearightleftheere.com. That's makearight. I hate doing the whole pushing, like, buy my stuff, join my memberships. I know everything I watch and everybody that I'm friends with, they're like, you need to be doing that. And I just don't know. I used to be in the commerce world and, with music and that just drained me. I just want to write. I want to teach people. I want to be an avenue for education. I want to, have a place for community. But at the same time, for me to do this, I do technically need to at least, but again, if you watch my videos and you just let the ads play, that helps a lot. But it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. I thought characters made me do it would win. I chose inner desire, but almost chose plot dictates it. I thought, I agree with you. I thought my characters made me do it would win because of the reference, and it's funny. And also, this is not a knock or a negative, but most authors write with the idea that my characters write through me, and I am a conduit, and they have these lives, and they just tell me what needs to happen, which is not a bad thing. That's how most writers actually even get started. But at the end of the day, you got to also remember, you're the writer. You got to make choices. You got to ask questions. You got to, figure out what's what. I thought it was plot when I initially read, then saw characters and thought, nah, has to be that. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I thought it was plot when I initially read it. Are you talking about your book in general? For anyone who's watching, if you're concerned that your book is plot driven when you want it to be character driven, the best indicator is this. Is each chapter just a series of events happening, and then every chapter is basically like the next event, which means character arrives to the tavern, just like Davi did. We got to get the sword of bloop bloop. If we don't get the sword of bloop bloop, these bear men are going to come back and kill us. All right, well, let's go. And then the next chapter is them traveling across the land. And then the next chapter is them getting to a town. And in that town, they ask somebody, where is the sword of bloop bloop? We are searching for it. And someone's like, oh, you got to go to blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, thank you. And then the next chapter is them getting to blah, 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 blah. Clear sign of plot driven, no character. Character is that there is a discussion. Character is there's opposition. Character is what are their feelings on it. Character is hesitation. Character is agency. Character is... So that's how you can tell. Like, if characters are moving from one scene to the next scene because we have to get that done, but they're not necessarily pushing back. Like, for example, we have to get the sword of bloop, the scene I was working on. There's positions. They're all arguing, should we? They're going to eventually come down to let's go get the sword of bloop. But while they're going to get the sword of bloop, you want people to be like, I don't think we should. Not that it should turn into a side quest, but characters should be like, you know what? This is too dangerous. And their fear might make them run. And by running, it'll put them into trouble. So even though we know in 2 chapters they are going to get to the sword of bloop, right now, because they are afraid, they have the agency to run, and they get the group in trouble, and now the group has to sort of get out of that trouble. So the plot dictates they go get the sword of bloop, but the characters' behavior and positions and motivations derailed their direction and caused this sort of like stop. And that's how you start really understanding if characters driving your story or if plot's driving your story. That's a short. I just leave this up here for a second. Just take a stretch. Sell. Look, I sing if you buy my stuff, right? The more everyone shares. By the way, I'll happily be the first to say you don't have to buy my stuff. But if you share the stuff, if you share the videos, which a lot of you do, and I'm so grateful for that. But like you share the book, or if you got the book and you like the book, you write a review, or you share the book and say, I read this, I'm reading this book, or whatever the case is. Or if you try to get more people to the channel, like all of that doesn't cost anything, but it does other than your time. And trust me, I know it's limited, but all that kind of adds to growth and stuff like that. And it really helps. Afghani! I didn't know if you were here today. Flowers, yeah, yes, you do that. You are fantastic with it. And again, M and Flowers are both members on the YouTube channel, which reminds me, M, I gotta send you a thing that I sent Flowers, but I don't know how to contact you. We're not friends on Facebook or any other social media. So if you send me a friend request on Facebook or Instagram, I could send you a link that gives you a free, because you pay for the membership on YouTube. I did it for Flowers. And by the way, anyone else out there, if you want the membership on YouTube, I will just give you the free membership of equal value to the Pinterest. To the Patreon. So you can enjoy both, because again, I don't need someone spending $5 on YouTube and $5 on Patreon. If you're gonna support me on YouTube, I can't give a free thing on YouTube, so I can only go the other. Like, it doesn't allow me. I looked for it. I looked because I wanted to gift people stuff. I just wanted to be like, thank you, I love you. But please find me on social media. It's all Thomas J. Bellezza. Or just go to makearightlefthear.com and email me and say, hey, this is my email. Because I'll just give you the thing, and then you'll get all the really nice stuff. There's a lot of like information on the Patreon. It's like educational stuff and stuff that I don't. So it's extra stuff. So feel free. But if anyone joins the membership on YouTube, contact me, because I'll see that you joined. And then I'll just give you the free membership on the Patreon for the same the value thing. I'm just saying. 'Cause we are you are the naughtiest at the back. I'll send you the deets. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I will always elevate, support, and show great love and do whatever I can on my end to do right by the community, to do right by everyone that's in this group, and beyond. You know, because you're doing something that helps me greatly, so I'm obviously giving that back. Aren't all stories a series of circumstances happening to characters a lot of the time? So let me push back on that. If I'm driving my car and my car breaks down, I agree with that statement. How I react to and what action I take to remedy that is character. So that is the difference. Plot is I'm driving, my car is going to break, so while I'm driving, my car breaks down, I have to pull over to the side of the road, or I'm inexperienced and the tire pops and I can't take control of the car and I crash into another car and then I hit a tree. One is plot, the car is going to break down, and the other is me making character choices. Now, after the car crashes, what do? Do I call a friend? Do I call my mother? Do I call my dad? Do I call my partner? Do I call whatever? Do I walk home? That becomes character now. So and do I go to work? How I get to work becomes character. Plot is like the major beats, and then the behavior within those beats can dictate the response to that. So, for example, if the character makes a choice where they can pull over with the flat tire and not getting to a major car accident, the plot still works. The car breaks down. But now they call a tow truck, and the tow truck's like, all right, we can get it turns out your axle's also messed up a little bit. And the guy goes, all right, well, can you drop me off at my job? And then I'll come pick this up later. And they go, yeah, sure. There's plot and character in there. It's plot and character. Step for naughty ass. I knew it'd pay off eventually. Yeah, of course. We are evil. We're adults. We're adults. Cheers. Oh. Since I believe, if I remember correctly, M and Flowers are across the pond from me, I'm watching not Outlander, but there's a spin-off of Outlander. This has to do with story, and I want to actually ask you questions on this. It's called Blood of My Blood or something like that. I think they're like 2 episodes in or 3 episodes in. Anyway, how accurate is the historical fiction elements of Blood of My Blood, or even Outlander itself? Do you, if you have watched it, have you watched that show and thought, this has nothing to do with Scotland, England, or Ireland? Or do you watch and you go, oh, this is not too bad. Not too bad. I'd really like to know. But I want to say, Blood of My Blood was not meant to be, like, there's no book series on it. The series showrunners went to the author and said, hey, we want to make this spin-off. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens before Jamie is born. And I'm like, anything that happens, it has to directly influence the other story. But since this never happened, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but there are 4 main characters, and I'm not going to say who they are. But 2 of those main characters shouldn't exist for, if you know the Outlander series. So anything they do directly mislead, so I don't know. Signs the protagonist of my Western has inner motivations to who and why he is himself. However, the story is the narrative is a series of events happening to him and how he responds. Oh, yeah, no, you are correct. Story is a series of how he responds to it. Plot is a series of events. Story is how he responds to it. Because remember, narrative is made up of both plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what. That's the series of events. And story is how it unfolds through the emotional experience and choices of the character, which would be how they respond to it. So in theory, yeah, the general gist of what you just wrote is accurate. Haven't watched them yet. I'll say this: Outlander, especially the first 5 seasons, very much are based on it's raw material. You know, like it's based on the books. Blood of My Blood has no reference, and it's very apparent. I really liked Outlander up to the 5th season. Everything else, I'm just like, all right, okay, let's wrap it up. But I gotta watch it because I have more. It's like True Blood, I watched the first season and I was like, this ain't too bad, But I watched the first episode. Like, this is terrible. And then I had 2 friends watching, and they're like, "Did you watch the second episode?" I was like, "No." They're like, "Just watch it. We want to, so we could talk about it." So I was like, hate watching it. And then by like episode 5, I was like, "Oh, I gotta watch True Blood." And I was like, "Oh crap, I don't even like the show." But I was like, I gotta watch it. And then I would talk to my friends. And then the season ended, and I was like, "Oh, that was an interesting twist," And then I watched the second season. I was like, "Oh my god, why am I watching this? This is just a train wreck." And my friends were but now I have more friends watching it. So then we would talk about it. So I had to watch the whole thing. Is that a bad thing? No, it is not a bad thing. Plot has to happen. Even if you're writing a character-driven story, and I say story because if it's driven by the characters, it's story, right? So plot has to happen. So it's okay that plot's happening as long as characters are reacting to it and that they are making choices and that they're emotionally influenced by the things happening, and therefore it changes their behavior because that's the growth. Me neither. What channel? It's Stars. I think you could watch it on Netflix. Again, I was reading because I tried to look up that other show. I saved it on Hulu. I forget the name of it, but it's on my to watch. It was a show that we talked about last week. I saved it to my Hulu list, but I couldn't get it on Netflix. So, but I can watch Outlander old seasons on Netflix. Blood of My Blood is on Stars, so you have to have Stars. I can only watch the first season to be. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's an old book series, so everything is just like, you're a girl, I'm a guy. You're a girl who doesn't want this, and I'm a guy. And that's all it is. And then it's, I'm a guy and you're a guy, and I want you and you don't want me. And it is a lot to get through. And they slowly take that away over the seasons. But, whatever. The writing is real good in the show for 5 seasons, but it's pretty tough. My friend was like, I can't watch. He's like, my wife still watches it, but I had to stop after season 1 because there was just so much essay. And I was like, I get that. I get that a lot. I hear that. If it's anything like Braveheart, then it's bollocks. Yes, Braveheart. All right. I'm going to stand on this, though. Braveheart is fanfic. It is not historically accurate at all. But it is. It's basically historical fiction. And I have a real close connection with that movie with my father. We saw it twice in the theaters, once when it first came out, once when it came back out because of the Oscars. I have an emotional connection to the exploration of that movie. But as far as a historical relic, it is not. And I agree with that, the bollocks element. But as a film, I'll sit down and watch that bad boy over and over. Mostly the same reason I eat hot dogs still. I won't eat them all the time, but occasionally I'm like missing my father, so I'll eat a hot dog. Like I'll buy hot dogs and I'll just eat a couple, because he liked hot dogs. Sometimes we're just trying to keep the memories of people we love alive even after they're gone, right? Gary Newman has an album called Outland. Does that count? Yes. We are the judges. The producer says yes. Flowers, the producer, has said yes. You're a girl, I'm a guy, I'm in. Accurate. I found this Bible study guide called Discerning the Voice of God at the chapel of Fairchild Air Force Base last Monday, and I'm on week 4. Wonderful. That's great. You know, if you found faith and religion and it's something that helps guide you and it's something that's important to you, I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Hannah Hart. It's always nice to sort of see people talking about some of the vulnerabilities of their existence. Top fans show that M is number 1, right? Hannah Hart is number 2. Roe is 3rd. Flowers is 4th. What's going on here? Richard is gone. I don't think Richard is in the room at all anymore. That's fine, though. Whatever. He just came in to be cool and make some jokes, and then he left me. I know Richard. That's all right. By the way, totally unrelated, one of the first things I talked to you about concerning music was Megadeth. Did you hear the next album will be their final? Dave announced. Yes, I did. You take a mortal man and you put him in control. You watch him become a god. I stopped listening to Megadeth after that album. There's a couple of songs I listened to afterwards. He's done. And, well, he should be. He's at that age where it's like, that's one of the reasons I also sort of got out of music, because I couldn't see myself being Metallica. Like, I was like, or the Rolling Stones. You know, there's a certain point where you're just like, come on. You're a novelty act now. Like, and it's like, I wouldn't be enjoying myself. They do. They make a lot of money with it. But, like, the idea to get there and just go up there and just play your same couple songs because you're not allowed to write new stuff because no one cares about your new. They just want to hear you. Just play me for Home the Bell Tolls. I was at my friend was at a Metallica concert. I mean, my friend was at a Metallica concert. And they started playing For Whom the Bell Tolled. And there was a kid in front of him. Now, for context, this was the Load tour. This is the tour that was honoring the newest album at the time, Load. And the kid turns around and he starts headbanging. And he's like, oh my God, this must be one of their new songs coming out on the next album. This is amazing. What is it? You know? And my friend was like, this is For Whom the freaking Bell Tolled. This is like, the kid thought it was, kid didn't know the old stuff. I'm also adding that into my story. And you should. That's good. Anything that you could connect to your stories, as long as you're having fun, Hannah. Just enjoy it. Get it out. Write your story. Make it happen. Honestly, you know, you got to try things. So there's no. I've had a ghost cat to exercise. Oh, I've had. Did you did you get rid of the ghosts? Did the ghost cat? Random question it is. Do you know what book bounty is? So book bounty is the thing where you go to. It's a platform. And let me think. Because this is the thing where... oh, wait. No, this is not what I was thinking of. I was thinking of the other one where it's book... it's called book... I can't find it on my list. I have saved stuff. I can't find it. This is not what... What is this? Pricing. Everything you need to build momentum and visibility for your books. For $45 a month, I'm good. 15-day trial. 2,500 sign-up bonus. Woo! I'd have to look into this. This is not what I was thinking. I was thinking of there's another one that's like an orange. I can't remember what it is. Why can't I remember? It doesn't matter. Yeah, no, I don't know much about that. I don't know much about that. Please forgive me. I'm terrible. Oh, that's a good song. A tout le monde, a c'est la vie. These are the last words I'll ever speak. Et tout le monde, c'est la vie. These are the last words I'll ever speak. That's how he does it. It was one of my funeral songs, but I've changed it out for a placebo. Have you heard a tout le monde with what is it? It's tout le monde with a tout le monde with female singer. There's a version of it called for the girl from Lacuna Coil, Christina Scaba. That one's really good. She sings a little bit on that. That song is definitely going to be the last song he plays on his last show. Which one? The For Whom the Bell Tolls? Ah, okay. Just checking. Yeah, I'll look into it. I mean, let me put that in my save. Book Bounty. That looks like it might be one of those, like, pay to advertise kind of things. Like, hey, I'll put it right here to review. I have a huge list I got to get to. Yes, Ro, yes. The song. I'm happy. I'm happy, so damn happy. I just got done writing my 15 beats with... Really? While you were watching this? That's fantastic. Congratulations, Hannah. Everyone give her a round of applause for success. Excellent. Unplugged. Ah, yes. Yes. I love unplugged metal. I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of unplugged metal. I can get down with that. In fact, Altanian, so I went from the band Tenebra. That was the band I did for a long time. And then I switched it to Altanian, which is based on actually one of the characters from my fantasy novels. And we did a lot of acoustic shows, and I just loved it. I just had so much fun doing it. But like we wore metal, like we have metal music out there, but I just got so much into it. You can give and get reviews for your book there. Oh, it's like the old days with GarageBand. You have to listen to music for X amount of time, and you have to give them reviews, and then that'll allow you points for people to do the same to you. But there was no money involved, but this one seems like it's money involved. I think you should try to just get reviews from people reading your book and friends and family and people that know who you are. Like I like my clients write reviews a lot of the times for my stuff. Because they're like, well, you've taught me. Or like people who have read my stuff or people I've written for, Hooray, Hannah, smile face. I picked Hi Ren for one of my funeral songs. Ooh, Hi Ren, that's good. I want my body to be filled with animatronics at my funeral. Like people come in, and then all of a sudden you just start hearing, it's a small world after all. And I'll come up. It's a small world after all. Yeah. Lovely, Jabal Hannah. Excellente. Congratulations. All right, we're 2 hours in. I'm going to do the final goodbye stuff. The whole thing. So for anyone who's watching and listening, please subscribe. If you haven't joined the channel yet, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. I'm a developmental editor and a writing teacher, so my videos are all about the craft of writing, but I also analyze stuff, and I also do real-time examples. There's not just say, these are 5 things your chapter needs, but I'll show you how to write out stuff. But more importantly, we also have an interview series, every other Thursday. The Right Mindset Podcast. Please go to makearightlefthero.com if you haven't already. You can find me, check me out, and do whatever you want. That is terrifying, Thomas. It is very terrifying. It's a small world after all. Okay. Remember to love one another. Okay. What else? As always, remember the Patreon next month. We'll open up the Patreon for Death of a King. It will show you the 0 drafts. It will show you like my notes. It'll show you how I break it down. It will explore it, and that's a really that particular tier is $15 a month, but you get everything. You get that. You get all the lower tiers and everything like that. So you're not just getting that. You're getting a whole bunch of stuff. But it'll give you insight into the book. It'll also teach you. Because I leave notes, too. I'm going to be leaving notes over the course of it where it explains choices and stuff like that. So it should be fun. More importantly, what else? Oh, this book is out. So if you haven't done so already, and you've read it and you're like, oh, this was good, or you're reading it, please leave a review on Amazon. That would definitely help me. More importantly, if you can, please share the link for the book. Just be like, this guy, he's got a nice beard. I trimmed it a little bit today, but Just saying. All right. Other than that, much love to everybody, really. Hannah, woo! What if you need a beta reader? I'd be interested in doing so for you. Hey, bro, that's really wonderful of you to do. Yeah, you should try to hook up with the Hannah of the Hearts. The Hannah of the Hearts. The Hannah of the Hearts. All right, with that, it is done. I'm done. I need to eat something. I'm starving. Tomorrow is Write a Book With Me series. We are flying through. We're deep into the book. We're deep into Act 2. Oh, no, we're in the second half of Act 2. Or are we in Act 3? We're far. We're really far into it. It's second half Act 3. So please feel free to join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be here. I will be writing the book and showing you on screen how everything works. I know everyone here who has heard and watched and done it. This is more for the people who have never seen it and don't know what's going on. I'm just sort of, pre-advertising. Anyway, with that, I am Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bang.